A dramatic scene unfolded at a shoe boutique, irrevocably altering a family's dynamics. The mother-in-law, attempting on a pair of exquisite boots priced at 75,000 rubles, stood beside her daughter-in-law, who sported modest footwear. "Let the daughter-in-law continue to wear her rags," the elderly woman cackled, savoring the moment. Her husband, resigned, reached for his card to pay, but the manager intervened with an apology, halting the transaction. "Your card is blocked." Welcome, dear listeners, to my channel. I'm delighted to have you. I present a new captivating story. Enjoy. This is the revised narrative. Alina first noticed the fraying on the soles of her boots in mid-October. That morning, a persistent drizzle had saturated her socks with icy water by the time she was halfway to the bus stop. She paused by a shoe store window, glanced at the price tags, and walked on. 28,000 rubles for simple leather ankle boots. That was half her nursing salary, and still to come were utility bills, groceries, and Maxim would inevitably need money for gas. Back home, Natasha carefully placed her damp shoes on the radiator, slipped on her house slippers, and began preparing dinner. Maxim arrived late, weary, tossed his keys on the dresser, and collapsed onto the sofa. "Mom called earlier," Olen announced, engrossed in his phone. "She asked me to go boot shopping with her tomorrow. Says winter's coming and she has nothing decent to wear." Elena stirred the pasta, remaining silent. Lyudmila Sergeyevna possessed an entire wardrobe of shoes. Elena had seen it when she and Maxim first married and lived in that apartment for their initial 6 months. Shoes, boots, ankle boots, all meticulously arranged on shelves, half still in their boxes, some never worn. "Are you listening?" Maxim repeated. "Yes," Elena replied. "And where's the money coming from?" "I received a bonus last week. My mother dedicated her life to me." Now it's my turn. Elena longed to mention that her boots leaked through, that she spent 10 hours a day on her feet at the hospital, that this bonus could contribute to their shared expenses. But she remained silent, choosing not to argue with Maxim about his mother. He wouldn't listen anyway. The next day, the three of them drove to a shoe salon in the shopping mall. Lyudmila Sergeyevna was in high spirits, sporting a new coat with a fur collar, her presence perfumed with expensive French fragrance. "Alyonushka, why are you so pale?" she inquired with feigned concern. "Maxim, dear, feed your wife properly. She looks like a skeleton." "Mom, please," Maxim grumbled. The salon exuded the scent of leather and a sweet air freshener. Lyudmila Sergeyevna immediately gravitated towards the racks of designer boots, oblivious to the price tags. Maxim followed her dutifully, nodding in agreement. Elena stood near the entrance, gazing at the display of women's boots. Plain black with a low heel, exactly what she needed. 24,900. She absently touched the sole of her own boot. Dampness was already seeping in. "Maxim, come here," her mother-in-law called. "I'll try these on." The sales assistant brought a box. Lyudmila Sergeyevna settled into a chair, kicked off her old boots. Quite presentable, actually, Elena thought, as Lyudmila Sergeyevna slipped on new dark blue suede boots with a stable heel and decorative stitching along the shaft. "How do I look?" she asked, turning from side to side in front of the mirror. "Beautiful," Maxim nodded. "Show me those others, too." Lyudmila Sergeyevna pointed to another pair, and those black ones. Half an hour later, a collection of empty boxes lay before the mirror. Elena sat on a small sofa by the wall, staring at her phone, not seeing the screen. Her feet ached from the previous day's shift. Her left heel was rubbed raw by a torn insole. "I'll take these," Lyudmila Sergeyevna finally announced, indicating the first pair of suede blue boots. "Maxim, will you pay?" "Of course, Mom." They approached the checkout. The sales assistant scanned the items and announced the total, 32,000 rubles. Elena instinctively raised her head. 32,000. That was her entire salary. That was 2 months of utilities. Lyudmila Sergeyevna turned to her, a smirk on her face. What? Too expensive? Never mind, at least they're beautiful, unlike some people's. She gestured pointedly at Elena's feet, at her worn boots with their cracked soles. Let the daughter-in-law continue to wear her rags. She laughed, a triumphant, contented sound that made something clench inside Elena. Maxim reached into his pocket for his credit card, not looking at his wife, and handed it to the sales assistant. She swiped it through the terminal, waited, and frowned. "I'm sorry, your card isn't going through," she said. "What do you mean, not going through?" Maxim exclaimed. "Insufficient funds. Perhaps try a different card." Maxim fumbled for his phone, opened his banking app, and Elena saw his face pale, his fingers tremble on the screen. "Maxim, what is it?" Lyudmila Sergeyevna asked nervously. He remained silent, staring at the screen. Then he slowly turned to Elena, his eyes wide with incomprehension. What did you do?" he stammered. "I withdrew the money from our joint account," Elena replied calmly. "The day before yesterday, every last kopeck." "How do you mean, withdrew?" "I went to the bank and took it out. It's a joint account. I have every right." Lyudmila Sergeyevna looked from her son to her daughter-in-law. "Maxim, what's happening? Just pay. Everyone's watching." Indeed, the salon manager, another sales assistant, and several customers were observing the scene with interest. "Elena, what the hell?" Maxim began, but faltered as he noticed their gazes. "Return the money to the card immediately." "I won't," Elena said, her voice steady, though her insides quivered. She had prepared for this conversation for 2 days, rehearsing her words, imagining his reaction. But now, as it happened, she felt surprisingly calm. "That's our joint money, your bonus and my salary, and I've decided we need it, not your mother, for a 5th pair of boots." "Are you out of your mind?" Maxim raised his voice. "Return it immediately." "I opened a deposit with that money," Elena continued, feeling her hands begin to shake. "In my name. It's blocked for 3 months. Early withdrawal isn't possible. During this time, we can calmly discuss how we're going to live and what to spend our money on." Lyudmila Sergeyevna clutched the counter. "Maxim, do you hear what she's saying? She stole your money." "Our money," Elena corrected. "And I haven't stolen anything. I've legally managed it." "Maxim, do something. Call the police." "Mom, calm down," Maxim muttered, still staring at his phone as if disbelieving that the account was indeed empty. The salon manager cleared her throat delicately. "Excuse me, but if you're not going to make a purchase, perhaps you could free up the checkout counter. There's a queue forming." Lyudmila Sergeyevna spun around, grabbed the boot box. "I'm buying these boots, Maxim. Do you have any more money somewhere?" "Mom, no," he said wearily. "It was all on that card." "How no? What about cash in your wallet?" Maxim reached into his pocket, pulled out a worn wallet, and emptied its contents onto the counter. 2,300 rubles in crumpled bills. "That's all I have." Lyudmila Sergeyevna stared at the meager pile of money, then at the boot box, then at Elena. Her face turned from pale to red, her eyes narrowed. "You," she hissed, "you did this on purpose. You planned it all." "I'm just tired of wearing worn-out shoes," Elena replied. "Tired of watching you beg Maxim every month for boots, then a handbag, then a fur coat. You have 2 pensions, by the way, and your apartment is yours. You could live on your own money instead of draining us dry." "I'm his mother," Lyudmila Sergeyevna shrieked. "I gave birth to him, raised him. I have the right." "You have a right?" Elena nodded. "Just not at my expense." Maxim stood between them, bewildered, still clutching his phone. "Elena, you understand. She's my mother," he mumbled. "I understand," Elena replied sternly. "I understand that she decided for me that I would wear rags in front of everyone. I endured it for 2 years, Maxim. I endured her jabs about my salary, about my cooking, about my cleaning. I endured you giving her money we were saving for vacation. I endured her demanding we pay for her apartment even though we live separately. But today, she crossed a line. What did I say? Lyudmila Sergeyevna was on the verge of hysterics. Maxim, kick her out! Divorce her! She's crazy! Elena turned and walked towards the exit. Her legs felt weak. She wanted to run, but she forced herself to walk slowly, head held high. Elena, wait! Maxim shouted after her. Where are you going? Home, she threw over her shoulder. To my parents. I'll get my things tomorrow. She exited the salon, and only on the street in the cold November air did she allow herself to take a deep breath. Her hands trembled so violently she could barely retrieve her phone from her purse. She texted her mother, "On my way. I'll tell you everything when I see you." Maxim called an hour later. Elena sat in the minivan gazing out the window at the gray city, at people rushing about their daily lives. "Elena, this is absurd," he said on the phone, his voice tired and irritated. "Come back. We'll talk it over. Everything's fine. We'll talk it over," she agreed. "When will you be ready to have a real conversation? In the meantime, I'll stay with my parents." To create such a circus over some boots? It's not about the boots, Maxim. It's about you not seeing me, not hearing me. For 2 years, I've told you your mother is overstepping, and you brushed it off. For 2 years, I've asked for your support, and you've always chosen her. She's my mother, and I'm your wife. Or I was. She muted the call and put the phone back in her bag. Outside, gray apartment buildings, bare trees, and dirty snow along the roadside blurred past. Her parents' home was warm and quiet. Her mother asked no unnecessary questions, simply hugged her, seated her in the kitchen, and poured tea. Her father nodded silently and went to prepare the sofa in the living room. "Did I do the right thing?" Elena asked, looking into her cup. "I don't know, darling," her mother replied honestly, "but I know for sure you couldn't have put up with it any longer. You haven't been yourself for the past 2 years." That night, Elena lay on the narrow sofa of her childhood bedroom, staring at the ceiling. Her phone buzzed incessantly with messages. Maxim sent angry tirades followed by pathetic pleas to return. Lyudmila Sergeyevna, somehow obtaining her number, sent voice messages calling her an ungrateful egoist and a homewrecker. Listening to these messages, Elena marveled at how she had tolerated it for so long. The next morning, she went to collect her belongings. Maxim was not at home. He had left for work without a note. Elena packed her clothes, cosmetics, and documents. There wasn't much. It all fit into 2 large bags. She walked through the apartment one last time. The cramped one-bedroom on the outskirts they rented for 25,000 rubles. 15 was paid by Maxim, 10 by her. An additional 10,000 went to Lyudmila Sergeyevna each month, supposedly for utilities at her apartment where she lived alone. On the table lay a card from their anniversary last year. "To my beloved wife, thank you for being you." Maxim had written this a year ago, when he still looked her in the eyes, when he kissed her in the mornings, when they made plans, before Lyudmila Sergeyevna had completely taken over their lives with her demands, whims, and constant need for money. Elena picked up the card, held it for a moment, then placed it back. Maxim arrived a week later. Elena had just returned from her shift, was sitting in her parents' kitchen, drinking tea with her mother. Her father opened the door and Maxim entered, looking disheveled, gaunt, with dark circles under his eyes. "Can we talk?" he asked. They went outside and sat on a bench near the entrance. November was past its midpoint, chilly, but no snow had fallen yet. "Elena, I understand now," Maxim began. "You were right. Mom really oversteps. I spoke with her, and she promised not to do it again." "Maxim, your mother has promised not to do it again. 5 times already," Elena said wearily, "and then it all repeats." "No, it'll be different this time. I explained to her that we're a family, that we have our own plans." "And what did she say?" Maxim hesitated. "Well, she was upset, of course, cried, said I was betraying her, that she dedicated her life to me." "Exactly." Elena interrupted. Maxime, your mother will never let you go. She'll demand, manipulate, play the victim, and you'll give in because you can't say no. I'll learn, Maxim said. Elena looked him in the eye. For 2 years, you've never taken my side. Not once, Maxime. Not even when she publicly called me an idiot for forgetting to buy her favorite cake for her birthday. Not even when she demanded I give her my bonus because she urgently needed to see a cosmetologist. You chose her every time. She's my mother, Maxime exclaimed. I can't just dismiss her. Not dismiss, set boundaries, Elena countered. Explain that you have your own family, your own needs, that you can't buy her boots for over 30,000 rubles when your wife's feet are getting wet. Maxime remained silent, staring at the asphalt. Give me the money back, he finally said. At least a part of it. I have 3 weeks until payday. I have nothing to live on. And there was money for your mother's boots? Elena remarked. But I didn't know that I wouldn't let you spend all our money on her whims anymore. You should have known. I've told you this 100 times. She took an envelope from her pocket. Here's 10,000 for food. It'll be enough for you. The rest will come in 3 months when the deposit closes. Then we'll decide what to do next. Maxime took the envelope, turned it over in his hands. Are we still together? He asked quietly. Or is it all over? Elena stood up from the bench. She felt cold and wanted to go home, to a warm apartment where her mother was surely already warming dinner. I don't know, Maxime, she replied honestly. Really, I don't know. 3 months is time for you to think, to decide who's more important, for me to understand if I'm willing to live with someone who can't protect his family. She walked away without looking back. Maxime watched her go, crumpling the envelope in his hands. Lyudmila Sergeyevna reappeared a month later, calling Elena at work. Apparently, Maxime had given her the number. Her voice was sweet and conciliatory. Alenochka, why are we acting like strangers? Let's meet, have a heart-to-heart. Elena agreed out of curiosity. They met at a cafe near the hospital. Lyudmila Sergeyevna arrived impeccably dressed in a new fur coat with styled hair and makeup. She sat down opposite Elena and ordered a cappuccino. Maxime is utterly dejected, she began. He misses you. I was thinking, perhaps you shouldn't have gone so far with this. Young people, fiery temperaments, you had a spat. Lyudmila Sergeyevna, why did you invite me? Elena interrupted. Her mother-in-law took a large sip of coffee. Return the money, she said in a different tone. Maxime told me about the deposit. It's all illegal, you know. You could be sued. Sue me then, Elena shrugged. It was a joint account, and I had every right to manage the money. You did it on purpose. Lyudmila Sergeyevna raised her voice. You specifically waited until we went to buy boots. I waited until Maxime received a bonus, Elena replied calmly, because I knew you'd find a way to spend it immediately, as always. I'm his mother, so I should wish him happiness, not drain his last penny. Lyudmila Sergeyevna grabbed her handbag. Maxime will leave you, she hissed. I'll open his eyes. Who are you? He'll find a normal wife who respects her family, and you'll be left with nothing. Perhaps, Elena conceded, but at least in new boots. She nodded towards her feet. She was wearing plain black ankle boots with a low heel, the very ones she had admired in that salon, 24,900. She had bought them the day after the scandal with her old card, which held the remainder of her salary. Lyudmila Sergeyevna looked at the boots, then at Elena. Her face contorted with rage. She jumped up and ran out of the cafe, slamming the door. The waitress approached the table. That'll be $2.20 for the cappuccino, she said. Elena paid silently, finished her lukewarm tea, and went outside. The first snow was falling, large, wet flakes that immediately melted on the asphalt. Her boots stayed dry. Maxime visited several more times, pleading, convincing, promising. Elena listened and saw he hadn't changed. The same excuses, the same inability to set boundaries. Lyudmila Sergeyevna still called him 10 times a day, demanding money, having hysterics, and Maxim always caved. When the 3 months passed and the deposit matured, Elena transferred Maxim his half. 40,000 was his bonus. The rest was her salary for 2 months. "Elena, maybe we can try again?" he asked when she handed him the divorce papers. "No, Maxim," she replied. "We're good people, but we're not suited for each other. You need a wife who will put up with your mother, and I need a man who will build his own separate family with me." The divorce was finalized quickly. There was no shared property, no children. Maxim moved back in with his mother. It turned out he couldn't afford the rented apartment alone. Lyudmila Sergeyevna immediately offered, "Why waste money? Live with me, son." Elena stayed with her parents, worked, and saved money. 6 months later, she rented a small studio apartment of her own, where no one told her she washed floors incorrectly or cooked poorly. She took on extra work, saving for a down payment on a mortgage. One day, over a year after the divorce, she encountered Lyudmila Sergeyevna in the same shopping mall. Her former mother-in-law stood by the shoe boutique's display window, gazing at the boots. The same dark blue suede ones. The price had increased. Now they cost 39,000 rubles. Lyudmila Sergeyevna noticed Elena, pursed her lips, and turned away. But Elena saw that her feet were clad in old, worn half boots. The shafts pilled, and in her hands she carried a cheap plastic bag from Pyaterochka. Elena walked past in a new jacket and comfortable winter boots lined with genuine fur. In her purse lay a bank statement. Her mortgage for a 1-bedroom apartment had been approved. She left the shopping center and the cold wind hit her face. Snow crunched under her soles. Somewhere ahead, beyond the gray buildings, the sky was beginning to lighten. The February day was lengthening, spring approaching imperceptibly. Her boots did not leak. M.